opportunity came about, AB approached me, would you take this? And it's a dream job for me. It's something that I want to prove to people. I want to justify to people, especially my family. I come from a well-educated background, and even my parents who are educated, they don't believe in such industry. So it's actually for me to actually show them that there is a career, that pathway that actually exists. A proper career. We are not talking about some trivial career which is, it dies out within a year or two. It's a long-term career.
But what kind of skill sets are we talking about when you learn, esports as a diploma or degree?
Okay, I would like to stress out Stratton Sire University, whoever wants to do a little bit of research, who's a partner of ABU as well. They actually have developed degree programs which actually incorporates every single business area of esports into, because it's a whole ecosystem by itself. Let's talk about event management or mass communication. Backtrack 10-15 years ago, mass communication was not even a major by itself. It was under some.
It's really quite interesting. So I did a class in Kuching once, and then my co-caster happened to be a lecturer in Unimas. Yes, in Unimas, and we talked about. He's very passionate about esports, and we talked about it, and then he had this idea of and as we went along the journey, we noticed that esports as an academic module is actually very, very wide. Yes, there's a lot to cover. It's not only you come in and say, okay, I learned how to produce esports or PR, marketing and things like that. You need to know the game as well. So when you need to know the game, then it breaks down into okay, each game has their own rules, for example. So like CSGO has a different rule compared to Dota, for example. So you need to know that. So we kind of had this debate of to what extent do students need to know, and then we came to a point that okay, they need to know, even to the point of, let's say when it comes to Dota, for example, you need to know what is last hitting, you need to know how to last hit, you need to know how to deny and all that. Because it came to the same concept as that if you want to be involved in, let's say, football, like you want to be involved behind the scenes, or do, let's say, coaching, or you want to be a nutritionist for football players, right? So without knowing how football works, you are not able to actually do that, right? So it's the same concept. So you need to know by the game.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this.
There's hundreds and thousands of cards right there with numerical values and much more, how to play defense and all that as well, and how you actually do objective gaming throughout the whole process. But aside from that, let's talk a little bit about the government initiatives for the past few years and what they're going to come out with next and much more. First of all, I don't think I have the authority to actually speak on behalf of the government on what you're about to do in the future, but as you all know, in 2019 and 2019, the Minister of Youth and Sport, YB600 in German, did a really nice conference and launched the National Esports Blueprint, so-called Blueprint 2019, which is a planning for 2020 to 2025. And we also do recognize the government did allocate 10 million for 2019 and 20 million for 2020 itself. Alright? Now, before people storm me with questions and all, I do not know when they spent on the 10 million, okay? They announced it during the financial spending by the Minister of Finance. Together with BCS, I think they also present a parliament. But for 2020 itself as well, I'm unsure as well. But hopefully we will get to see vision. But based on the value itself, you can see that the government has started basically interest and also putting a little bit of financial aid in the esports industry itself. But judging from this, in the perspective of the industry players, the professional players, teams, amateurs, and even esports Malaysia itself, we hope that these kind of fundings are being spent well and towards the development of the esports scene itself, and we want to see visible, viable results so that we can actually observe how this money is being channeled to, whether it's channeled to through the right channels or is it being spent well over the past few years as well.
So your organization, eSports Malaysia,
career. So right now, I think we heard a lot about graduates who are out of universities that don't have jobs waiting for them, right? But if you look at the esports as an industry, if we are able to, enrich the students' mind, the teachers' mind, there are a lot of courses or there are a lot of interest, passion points that you could develop in students, as in, there's areas of game development, creative character development, software, technologies, even event management, streaming, and all that, being MCs, and then all these people that are on the stage with me are really professionals, but it's just that they have a lot of passions in the gaming itself. So this is what we wanted to do as a part of the industry. Being in the industry does not mean that you have to pump in millions of dollars to make a difference. But I think Domino's, as when we launched this program last year, we're committed to invest in six-figure amount, and I think we really did that. Beyond just the money, but in terms of the program that we did. So I think it's quite early to talk about the reinvention of the school program, but that is really the aspiration in terms of how we want Domino's involvement to be very, very beneficial for the nation. So it's really about enriching the community. And I think there is one thing that we share in common, Domino's share in common with the gaming community, is that we are very passionate, we are relentless, we are very determined to get results, we're very innovative. So we are basically sharing the same values, and I mean that's the best way to actually work together.
Yeah, and I think it's not just when you invest this kind of money that you can get all of it back. How do you justify?
Well, to begin with, how we first started off in this esports journey is, I would have talked about like from the time that our passion developed, when I was a kid, and literally 20 years ago, I was counting back, in the 90s region, there may be people in the audience that are born like after I even developed my passion. But anyway, having said that, it all started really with a bit of a joke. And there was one day I was playing Dota 2 with my partner, and he was at home and I was at home. And then his wife comes by, he says hi to his wife. We all hear it over Discord. And then he was like, oh shit, I think I've been spending too much time on Dota, guys. And he said that on a group chat.
Story of all of us.
Yeah, that's right? And then it was all, and then we joked and we said, hey, let's do something with this. And we all just kept quiet. And that's how it started, because we were serious about it. Because we do see a lot of benefits of esports. I think that it's a mega trend with the kids, the youth of today. I have some older nephews and nieces, who are like 6, 7 years old, 8 years old. They are already playing with the phones, their iPads, and so on and so forth. And they enjoy these games. And like every hobby, I believe that it is very possible to channel it in a positive way or in a very negative way. It could turn out to be very unhealthy, it could turn out to be very, very healthy, right? I mean, if we look at esports today, it's not very different from football 50 years ago. I mean, back then, 50, 60 years ago, football in UK, they're supported by bars or pubs, they have pub football teams and so on and so forth. We're not very different. It's just that the speed of adoption in the industry is very fast. Me myself, before I started this esports journey, I have a digital marketing agency, I have a digital agency, and I really believe that some of these mega trends you can't fight against it, and there is a very real possibility of shaping how it actually moves forward. And I think that it is my responsibility as a very, very passionate gamer to actually try to channel it in a very positive way. So I'll guess that my guess is that the main reason why we started this was to try to influence and shape this in a positive manner.
But you haven't answered the question yet. Where is the return?
Well, I'll say the return. A lot of it, to be honest, we have we all know we have invested quite a bit, right? In the millions, and that's correct. Because like in Indonesia as well, we bought into a franchise league for all our legends, MPL, and that's like $1 million US, And yes, so we have invested past millions bring it. And what is this ROI that we're talking about? I'd say that the ROI is the return is meant to be perceived and hoped for the future. Where this really becomes something unstoppable, a really big thing. Something that we aspire for it to be, like as professional sport as badminton or football is. And I think a lot of us wants that, and we're just being front runner and a vanguard, running forwards first and seeing what we can do.
All right. So I guess some of you already.
This question, actually, my answer to them is, I answer them with a question. What part of our life doesn't have addiction? Which part of our life doesn't have addiction? Which industry doesn't have addiction? Which hobby doesn't have addiction? Addiction is bad by itself. Well, that's your answer. So anything done in a moderate manner, it leads to a positive side. Anything done overboard, gone overboard, it's bad. Let's talk about someone who's overwork themselves. We are talking about people who are sitting in front of the computer and working, okay, right? People do die. We are talking about sportsmen, right? Who exhaust themselves. They've also passed away.
Pretty normal thing, yes, right.
And so every single aspect of life, if there's an addiction, it leads to a negative side. So it's just a very invalid stigma that ropes around esports, and it's because what parents back in 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it used to be dominated by cyber cafes. So how it actually started off, especially in Malaysia, is because kids would cut school, cut classes, and they go to cyber cafes. This is because it's a fun thing to do. Same thing like how hobbies come about, right? Our kids or we ourselves or our parents, we all like to do something. We do that because it's fun, right? If there's a proper channel to do that, then we will not put ourselves in a negative way or go towards it in a negative way. And if our parents were educated enough or they know how to control the kids, how to drive the kids, then there will not be addiction. There would not be addiction. I have my nephews, like what Kat was saying earlier. I have my older nephews, because of myself, they are getting to involve into esports right now, and they're my uncles and aunties, my parents even, they come to me to ask advice. What should we do? I mean, I will tell my aunties, do what you did with them with education, with studies. You have a timetable for them. You give them time to study, at the same time you give them time to play. So it's a balance between everything. If you are able to balance that, at the end of the day, when they are completing their school or university, they would have found that one thing that they are passionate about, they're good in, and they will feel good about it, and they are going to make something out of it.
That's right. Thank you, Tanis, for the answer.
Who here plays ranked games? Raise up your hands. Ranked games, okay? Now, when you're playing a ranked game, for example, yesterday night I played a ranked game, my dad called me to go upstairs, okay? I had a choice. It's either I continue playing the ranked game, or I leave it, abandon, get penalized for 24 hours, or I keep playing and come back to my dad. But of course, there's very disrespectful about that. Your parents would not understand what a ranked game is, how a ranked game affects whatever that you have on your ID, or the importance of the game itself. Parents don't understand. Same issue, like your parents don't understand how game is so important. How is it a job? How is it a profession? Probably in your life right now, it is very, very rare to encounter people like Tanesh, Kiat, or Sir Cloud, and everybody else we have right here. This is just a small number right here. Parents will just compare, but they were just lucky enough they survived in the esports industry. Many, many more will not be able to do it. One more good example was, I gave a talk at UITM in December 2019. There was this one kid, he got 3.9 CGPA in UITM Puncak Alam. So he came over to me and he told me that, I want to venture in esports, I want to become a professional player, but my parents don't let me play, even though I have 3.9 CGPA. Why? Because they compare me with the other friends, they're playing games and they're doing badly. Alright? The parents don't care how well you do, they will try to actually find an excuse for you to actually stay away from the path. Because back in the days, we need to understand, or if you're lucky enough to become a Mark Zuckerberg and Apple and all that, alright? But it's very, very rare case. Your parents wants you to have a safe future, wants you to have money. Imagine people say that you want to become a marketeer. No, you should become a doctor or something. Alright? I'll pay for that. Anything else, you're not going to be accepted with it. It's very, very hard. Now, here's the problem. Teenagers complain that parents don't understand the teenagers. But teenagers also don't understand that you seem to not understand that your parents went through a different kind of life back then. They were not as privileged as us when we started off with good smartphones. Probably when I was born, back then we only have like Blackberries, we have quite a good smartphone and all that. Back in the days, your grandpas and grandmas will always be talking about, oh, did you know in the back days we have those big phones and all that? And all those stories about televisions and all that, which we don't know about, right? But we have to respect that they had different lives, and it is not their fault that they have those kind of perceptions right here. We have to wait for the flow of time to go through, but of course we have to do our part in showing the positivity in esports and make it a collective effort for this to actually happen in the future.
So discussions like this and
In a very low level when it comes to pay, so that they get hired for events and all that. This is me being bluntly honest, alright? They put it in such a way where they're willing to get paid for as low as a few hundred ringgit, and then just to get the job so that let's say for example me and Cloud were in a competition, right? So let's say Cloud is actually being paid for 500 bucks. This is just an example, right? To make sure that I give you a good bargain, rather than hiring him, why don't you hire me at 300? And then obviously you're gonna get me, right? Because I'm cheaper, right? It is always the mentality right here. People place themselves in those kind of situations. And it's kind of funny when they come out and say, hey, why do we get underpaid? I look back at them and say, it's kind of like your fault, because back in the days, you were the one who started off all this. And they fail to realize, and this affects the economy for the esports scene itself. Because of their actions, they affect the pay for all the other talent as well. Maybe observers, casters, streamers, and much more itself. You seem to think that it's all about you, but it kind of affected the whole ecosystem. Because you get paid cheaper, now anybody who wants to beat you has to set themselves lower and lower and lower. And some even do it for free at certain time, just because, for exposure purposes and much more. Because they tend to, they get worried because they might not be hired, they don't think they're good enough, they don't think there's any opportunities out there, they keep seeing the same faces and much more. And all that. I think this is the problem right here. Once we clear all that, probably we can actually have a brighter future for the talent right here we have in Malaysia.
great. So what I'm hearing is basically everybody support each other to basically circumvent that kind of.
Well, rather than quoting, I would say my hope for the future. I would say, first of all, thanks to Domino's for hosting such an event, because having such companies coming forward, organizing such events rather than just tournaments. You know, as a gamer, you're always looking for tournament. I mean, this is something that I need to speak about. But as people who are in the esports ecosystem, we are looking for such events as this, where the exposure, the education part goes to the gamers as well as other companies. So I hope, like what Linda was talking about, the school initiatives, it will go down to the grassroots, where we are talking about probably going to primary level and start educating people from inside out. I mean, that would be my hope.
Thank you. Good.
Well, for me, I think that esports as a future has a very bright future. But I just hope that everyone in the ecosystem or in the industry could actually channel it in a healthy and positive way. And that's my hope. And I think as industry players ourselves, that's what I think that we are all responsible for. Thank you.
For me, first and foremost, thank you for supporting our business. Because without all our consumers, we wouldn't be able to even be here and organize such an event. So I think what Domino's is